Let's get inside a mind where I doesn't exist. At all.
To understand the Spartans, you have to forget everything about being you.
First, we've got to cut out our modern idea of the individual self.
Because for them, there was no I. There was only the state.
So, you didn't serve a nation. You were part of a living organism.
You weren't a citizen. You were just a tiny, replaceable cog in a machine.
And this whole way of thinking, it started the second you were born.
Yeah, from the moment you're born, your very existence was on trial.
A weak infant was just a faulty part, left on a mountainside to die.
And to them, this wasn't cruel. It was just logical quality control.
So that's the first lesson you learned, even before you could talk.
This brutal mindset shaped everything, even what they were most afraid of.
I mean, think about it. Our biggest fear is death. Theirs, being useless.
Failure duty, and you became a trembler. Basically, a social ghost.
See, physical death could be honorable, but being cast out was total oblivion.
So a Spartan wasn't fighting for glory, money, or even his own family.
He fought because if he didn't, he basically stopped existing as a person.
The Spartan mind wasn't its own. It was just an extension of the state.
And the number one lesson every single Spartan boy learned was this.
The Spartan agogogy. Think of it as psychological engineering. And it was brutal.
Its purpose was simple. Burn away who you were and forge you into an instrument of war.
Make no mistake, this wasn't nature. It was a deliberate system designed to totally reconstruct a mind.
Yeah, it started when they were just 7. That's when a boy was taken from his family.
So, the first lesson was simple. Systematic desensitization to pretty much constant suffering.
Their lives were stripped bare. I mean, all of this was designed to just toughen up the body.
This constant hunger served a dual purpose. Sure, lean bodies, but more importantly, it made them cunning.
The logic behind this was absolutely brutal. Stealing was encouraged, but getting caught meant a flogging.
See, the real crime was getting caught. Survival wasn't about mercy, it was about skill.
But all this physical stuff, that was just the beginning. The real goal was conditioning the mind. In their world, personal feelings were a massive weakness, one that put the whole group at risk.
So things like pain and fear, totally forbidden. The only outlet allowed was controlled violence for Sparta. Yeah, if you showed even a hint of pain, you'd get ridicule and violence from everyone.
Their education? Oh yeah, that was just as practical and just as ruthless.
Every single thing they learned had one purpose: military application. That's it, nothing more.
They even weaponized speech. The thinking was, a mind that uses too many words is inefficient.
So after 13 years of all this, what kind of person comes out the other side?
You're looking at a timeline of complete psychological demolition and then reconstruction from the ground up.
But here's the big question. Did this whole brutal process actually create brave men?
The answer is pretty chilling. It wasn't about courage. Not really.
That basic survival instinct, it was just overwritten by discipline, duty, and the phalanx above all.
So, in the end, this was way more than just training. It was literally engineering a soul.
So what was their secret weapon? Well, it's not what you think.
Believe it or not, it all starts with their most iconic piece of gear. See? Half the shield protected you, the other half, your brother in arms.
This meant that alone, you were exposed. A single warrior was basically incomplete. But together, they became something else. A living, breathing wall of bronze.
This created a unique state of mind. We call it the phalanx mind. And the rules were simple but absolute. The unit was everything.
So, where did this insane discipline come from? Was it just plain courage?
Not exactly. The truth is, it wasn't a lack of fear at all.
No, their fear was just pointed somewhere else entirely.
Their greatest fear wasn't the enemy. It was the crushing, absolute fear of shame.
So you see, shame was the real fuel for their war machine.
And nothing says it better than the famous last words of a Spartan mother.
Let's break that down. For a warrior, there were only 3 ways home.
That shield wasn't just metal. To lose it was to betray everyone.
We all think of them as the most feared warriors in the ancient world, right?
But what did they fear most? What truly terrified these legendary fighters?
Well, it wasn't some invading army. It was the enemy right there, in their own fields.
This enemy was the Helots, a huge population that the Spartans had conquered and enslaved.
It was their labor that freed every Spartan to focus only on becoming a perfect warrior.
But here's the crazy part. The Spartans were, vastly outnumbered.
But by who? The reality is actually pretty staggering.
Get this, 7-1. For every single Spartan, there were 7 helots.
You can imagine this imbalance created a deep, constant paranoia running through everything.
Which meant Sparta wasn't just a military state, it was a full-on police state.
And their number one tool for control? The Cryptia, basically an elite and terrifying secret police.
Their mission was just brutal. Young warriors sent out at night to hunt and silently kill rebels.
This was pure psychological warfare. It was designed to keep the Helots in constant terror.
All this constant internal pressure, it created what we'd now call a siege mentality.
They saw themselves as a small island of order in a sea of chaos.
In fact, every single one of their brutal customs was justified by this one single fear.
A powerful metaphor sums it up. They were literally sitting on the lid of a volcano. So that famous military discipline? Yeah, it wasn't just courage, it was fueled by paranoia.
The Spartans were always fighting 2 wars, one abroad for glory and one at home for survival.
This meant every Spartan warrior had to look in 2 directions at once, outward and inward.
I mean, you're looking at one of the most terrifyingly efficient social engineering projects in history.
And its goal was brutally simple: create the perfect soldier, one who would never, ever break ranks.
And you know what? For centuries, this system was devastatingly effective on the battlefield.
But that's the thing. This perfect machine was also incredibly brittle. It couldn't adapt.
So what happens when you've perfected the game right before someone goes and changes all the rules?
The Spartans were absolute masters of tactics, but when it came to strategy, a total failure.
They mastered the shield wall, holding the line, but stuff like naval power or diplomacy, they ignored it. So when they actually won an empire, their leaders were just lost. They couldn't handle politics.
And here's the real irony. The system that was built for their survival was actually killing them.
It was a death spiral, calling infants, constant war, rigid social rules. Their own citizen pool just kept shrinking.
Their obsession with perfection, with purity, well, it was literally breeding them into extinction.
But the deepest flaw of all wasn't on the battlefield. No, it was psychological. Think about it. They knew how to die. They knew how to obey. They just didn't know how to change.
So as the rest of the world was evolving, Sparta basically just stood still, intellectually stagnant.
Which brings us to their most famous moment, Thermopylae. It's the perfect metaphor for everything.
It was an absolutely beautiful, heroic stand. And also, completely meaningless from a strategic point of view.
They had created the perfect tool for a world that was constantly changing and imperfect.
It really makes you wonder, right? What happens when that drive for perfection actually prevents any kind of progress?